So welcome all. It's a short live meeting this morning, a small live meeting this morning. There's the 6 of us on the call, but I know a lot of people wait and get the recorded version. So we'll proceed ahead, and we can have a more open discussion this way too. I'm looking forward to that. This is going to be great. So the update actually is relatively short this month. We didn't have a board meeting between our two meetings, so it's not a lot to report on in that respect. Our next board meeting is next week, so at the next update, we'll be talking about the different activities that the board has carried out. In terms of activities that I've done as chair, I guess the major one was Rima and I attended the EBRD meeting in Morocco, which they held for small, medium-sized businesses and consultants. So it was very interesting to be there. And they asked us to be talking about the profession of management consulting. It was great, although they operated in French. My French is very, very basic, less basic even than yours, Rima, which I'm ashamed to say because I'm born and raised in Canada, which is a bilingual country, but I'm from the English-speaking part in Western Canada. The other event that we have is not really an event, but we have been in touch with two arms of the United Nations. As you know, we're an observing member of the UN, and ECOSOC asked us for a statement. They're asking statements from observers. So we're putting together a 500-word statement about management consulting and its role, particularly with regard to sustainable development. So that's something we can circulate to institutes once we finalize that. And our past chair, Soren, attended Congo, co-NGO. I call it Congo because that's the way it's spelled, but it's the co-NGO. So all the non-governmental organizations, which is quite a large group. There's over 1,000 of them, of which we're one. And we're talking about how we integrate ourselves into that and make statements on behalf of consulting, and then use that in terms of reaching out to our own target markets to help them understand how we're trying to represent them at the UN. So those are interesting developments. We don't have a lot of resources for that area, but on the co-NGO particularly, we're thinking we may try to build in a volunteer that can take the lead on that. So we'll see how that goes. In terms of events, just a bit of a heads up, we'll be talking at the board meeting next week to finalize all the dates, but the annual meeting certainly will be the week of October 11th, and we're focusing in on October 14th. And we're thinking at this point it'll be a very similar format to last year, but enhanced. So around this time of day, we'll have one session with recorded videos, reports, and discussion. And then about 6 hours or so later, we'll have another session, a second session with the same videos and discussion to allow for time zone. Otherwise, people will have to be getting up in the middle of the night, and we want to make the annual meeting as accessible to all delegates as possible. The enhancement is that Reem and I have been talking about whether we should use that time between the two sessions to invite some guest speakers, some interesting people who could address us on topics that are relevant to the profession. And that would be optional, but people could, after the Asia Pacific time zone meetings, sit in on some of those that are of interest to them, or before the Americas Europe sessions. And so we'll have more to update you on that in writing after the annual meeting, once final decision is made next week. Constantinus Award ceremony will go ahead this year, so yay. It's too bad we didn't have that one last year, but it's in progress now, and I know you're aware of that. And there will be a session the day before the annual meeting, so exactly how that's going to work isn't finalized yet, but we'll be keeping you up to date on that. But we do know that we'll go ahead with that ceremony. Asia Pacific Hub, thank you, Lydia, is finalized for the 27th of May. So we will go ahead with that.
Yeah, it's confirmed.
Good. Yeah. I'll be involved with that for the opening and help you out with
the closing.
Or the closing, whichever works better for you. I won't be able to go to the whole 4 hours, I think, because of the time zone differences. But
no, it's okay. You can do the opening, then you can retire to rest or go to bed, and then is it okay you do the closing?
I think so. Let's see what how the time zones work out. But I'll I'll help out whatever you need.
I can tell you the time zone now, Dwight, if you don't mind, since you're on the call, it's 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. because we have to cater for Australia and New Zealand. So it's the same time. But if you think you don't want to do the closing, then let me know. Then I will more or less do the closing.
Okay.
So the closing is 6 p.m.
Okay, can once you have the agenda ready, maybe let's you and I look at it and see what's best. I mean, 6 a.m. is easy for me because that 6 p.m. is the closing is easier for me because that's my morning time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So
anyway, let's work that through.
You have to do the opening too, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah. So,
okay.
Thank you. I'll be there.
Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you, Dwight.
And then EuroHub will be on the 2nd of June. And America's Hub, we're working now. I'll be working with the chairs and the delegates to see if we can have an America's Hub meeting, but a bit of a different meeting in terms of looking more at how do we stimulate growth in the Americas, because we're not very well represented there. So we'll have that as a discussion point. And then we can't forget International Consultants Day on the 3rd of June, and we'll have a ceremony on that. And I know Rima's working with I'm not sure who you're working with on that, Rima, but I know you're taking the lead on making sure that it's a good event. The other thing that I think might be of interest, there's 2 more updates for you. One is on the CMC firm and the CMC Global Directory. These are 2 initiatives that we've been working at for a long time in the background. The CMC firm, we've decided that in the first half of this year, 2021, Rima, from the Secretariat perspective, with some volunteer support, will be putting on more of a marketing approach just to try and give a final push on that. There's been some success. We've had a couple of more CMC firms in place last month. I think there's some in the pipeline, Rima. You might want to add to that at the end of my comments. I think this is an amazing mechanism. So we're really trying to make that one work and put a bit more effort into it to see if we can demonstrate that it's a product that is that institutes, I guess, appreciate in terms of involving corporate entities, CMCs, that would like to be involved as a CMC firm. The second part is the CMC Global Directory, and there we're approaching 100 members. This is a way for CMCs who aspire to international practice can meet with each other, network with each other, and build projects together. So I've always been a fan of that, and I supported its launch. It didn't take off as quickly as I thought it would. I guess these things hardly ever do. But on the other hand, I still think there's a lot of potential there. Coming out of the 2020 onwards task force, there may be some insights that will help us see how to use that. And we've decided that we will be having some more sessions with that group to call them together to try to stimulate the networking in that group. So that one is moving nicely, but I'd like to see it moving faster. And then the last thing is that Rima and I have been meeting with representatives from IMC UK. They launched last year, and you've probably heard about the Chartered Management Consulting Initiative. This is something I think to be applauded. Anything that enhances the profession and provides different ways of ensuring competence in the profession is a good thing. But what we do need to do is work through what the implications are for other institutes and the Certified Management Consultant accreditation, and how those things link together over time. So the focus of the discussions that we've been having with them is to keep updated on their pilot there, what their success is with it, which it seems to be going fairly well, and how they are integrating the CMC designation into the pathway to lead towards the chartered. And then most importantly, from the ICMCI perspective, is what happens if a consultant from Singapore or Australia or the US calls up the UK and says, oh, this chartered thing looks really interesting. I'd like to be a chartered management consultant. How do I do that? So we need to work out those mechanisms, and they're aware and they are thinking about these things. They've started a pilot with IMC Ireland to explore these issues. So I think they're handling it very well. The biggest plus for me in this is that the Chartered Management Consultant designation has been put in place in collaboration with the Association of Major Firms in the UK. So from the perspective of IMC UK, it's a way to bring the large firms back into the tent. And that's a really important thing. So there's some learning there that I think can be helpful to us as well. So just to let you know that we're watching that and working with them, and we'll keep you informed as things change. Rima, of the things that I've talked about, I'm sure that there's a few things you'd like to add that I may have missed.
Good morning, good afternoon. Hi, everyone. Um, the only thing is that, yes, the CMC firm, it is picking up. We have 2 new firms since last month. One is from China, the other is from the US. So we're going to be announcing that soon. They were just awarded last week. We have one in the funnel, Dwight, but the issue is that they do not have CMCs. They were from South Africa. So we put them in touch with Angelo and the team at South Africa, and that actually ended up bringing in CMCs to South Africa. So, which is the benefit of the CMC firm, one of the main benefits of the CMC firm. Plus, what we did for both the CMC firm website and the global directory, which is your passion, White, what we did was we added a news bar or a ticker at the top of the websites themselves, and that's where we're adding the testimonials. So now anyone accessing that site would see why people are benefiting from it, which is a very good thing. The other thing is that we're enriching our video channel on YouTube in order to make sure that those recommendations are also in video and are available there, which makes it somehow more encouraging to everyone. One of the other things that, with regards to the CMC directory and what White said, is that we're going to involve them together in order to make sure that they also work together and become teams. Other than that, we're going to somehow target marketing them or making them more visible, and we're going to take the example that is done by CMC Canada Alberta's chapter, which is something that was prepared actually by Doug McNamara when he was chair of marketing at ICMCI. No one picked it up from the IMCs. I don't know if you've noted that. We mentioned it in our newsletter. No one picked it up from the IMCs. IMC USA have their own type of promotion as well. So we're going to adopt that and actually start doing it ourselves without billboards or anything, but with some sort of, why use a CMC, and start talking about that, but mainly focus on the CMCs that are available on the CMC directory. So those are the 2 products that I wanted to talk about. With regards to the Constantinos Award, yes, we're going to have it. We're going to have a big. Actually, you'll be surprised, right? It's going to be a beautiful event. That's
Nice.
what they promised me, and going virtual with it will be impressive, regardless. And it's going to be one day before the annual meeting, so also in the same week of the 11th of October. Okay.
Will I get to wear my tuxedo again after 2
I
years?
think you might.
Hey.
I think you might need to. Yes, I was promised the whole lot. Okay,
I
and
better, I better,
Alfred always delivers. Yeah.
I better start losing some COVID weight pretty quickly then.
And a bow tie too.
And the
Really
bow
a
tie,
bow
yes.
tie.
So those are the 3. Other than that, at Secretariat, I mean, we've been doing the work that was planned all along. We know that we only have 2 months left of the financial year, and that's when all the preparation for the annual meeting starts. But till then, it's going to be many deliverables by the many different committees. We're looking, for example, if I want to talk about the membership committee, we're really looking at the application process. We're re-looking into the application itself, and that is something that you might see changed by the annual meeting. With regards to PSC, they're actually updating the competency framework. So you would have a new updated one by the end of the year as well, by the annual meeting. With regards to the Quality Assurance Committee, they've been working mainly on enhancing the number and deliverables of the assessors. Many trainings took place for them, and actually we have one by the end of this week. So much is happening at the QAC. So it's the different committees are doing the different work, and of course, with regards to the marketing, you've all seen the change that we've had in our newsletter, in our social media accounts, and how we've been actually increasing the content for ICMCI on all those platforms. That's it, right?
As just a little peek inside the Secretariat. So Rima and Husseima, thank you. I know you both work so hard to keep all of these things coordinated and keep all the volunteer teams on track. So thank you very much to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we must applaud both of them.
Yes, yes.
Applaud both of them.
As you were talking about competency framework, it struck me about ISO 27700 and the training programs that we're doing there. So I'm really pleased with the rollout of that and the pickup by the institutes on ISO 27700. When they first started reporting to the board about ISO 27700, it was really hard for me even to be able to remember all the numbers and get them in the right order, because I'm not the standards guy, as I always say. But when you think about entry level to the profession, there's nothing better than to have a world standard that's established by a third party, especially as credible as ISO, and for us to be able to use that and move it forward. So I did sign up for the training program. So I'm an accredited instructor, so I'm involved in it in that way. And the feedback I get from CMCs as you train them and management consultants who are not CMCs is really impressive. So that's great. I was curious, Christine. I see I'm on your e-news, so I've been getting your promotions for an event I think you had yesterday or today. How is it going in Australia, the ISO program?
She could be muted.
There we go. There we go. Wouldn't unmute.
Yeah.
Yes, it's slowly gaining traction. We've got a course scheduled just about every month. Oh, so okay. We have another one running next month. Next week, I should say. So registration is a little bit low on that one at the moment. We're so hoping we'll still get enough people for that to run, but it's certainly starting to generate interest. So we've actually been pretty aggressively marketing it. So it's been we've been promoting the standard and the programs, the training programs in pretty much everything that goes out, all the newsletters, etc., that go out. And we've got a really good marketing strategy for each course when it's scheduled, with three reminders, and we've got course brochures and things like that. So it's still a little slow, but it's certainly getting people's interest, and people who are not members, which is really good. That's we want the members to go through it, but we're really keen for management consultants that are out there and are not members and maybe don't know about the Institute to prick their ears up, and they definitely are. So yeah, it's going well.
Okay, perfect.
If I made right, Christine, we're working on some edits on the material. When is the course, please? When is it exactly? What date?
It's on the 22nd. Sorry, no, because the 20th. The 20th, yes. I'm doing the CMC webinar on the 22nd.
Okay, so that's
on
next
the 20th.
Tuesday. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
We will aim to finalize the material and send it to you before the end of this weekend.
Oh, great.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thanks. Many thanks, Rima. Great.
Excellent. And I'm doing one in Canada today and one a week today. So if you get me on that list for
you'll
the new
benefit
stuff.
from the one. Yeah. And by the way, Dwight, one good news with regards to the ISO. If you remember, we had signed an agreement with the EBRD, and since the pandemic started, they have stopped all training, and none of the training took place, and the agreement expired. So yesterday, while talking to the EBRD, we agreed that we're going to extend. So we're going to renew the agreement, and it's going to be for another year and even maybe beyond that. She needs to look into their budgets and renew it accordingly. And the good thing is that they're going to start providing all the virtual training as well on the ISO. So
good.
on the essentials where the ISO is embedded. So we're going to restart with that soon as well. Okay.
Perfect. Excellent. So that's what I had for you in terms of updates. Are there any questions about anything from the perspective of what's happening at ICMCI?
I think it's very clear, Dwight.
Good.
Yeah,
Excellent.
no.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very
No,
much.
that's all good.
Thank you.
Okay, the topic for today is what did we learn from 2020? So,
Dwight, sorry,
yes?
I'm interrupting. Konstantinos had his hand up and you didn't notice that.
Oh, I didn't
Right,
notice.
Konstantinos, you wanted to say something?
Oh, that's okay. Yes, very briefly, would it be safe to suppose that the Americas Hub will take place late May?
Yes, I'll be sending that email out today to the chairs and the delegates. And we'll be suggesting May 20th in the afternoon Eastern time. So sort of probably late morning West Coast. Excellent. So what has 2020 taught us? I was thinking we might do this as a bit of a round table. And then I can fill you in on some of the observations I've had from the global perspective, but I'd be very interested, just top of mind from each of you, sort of what are the lessons and the takeaways from 2020 with respect to the profession from the perspective of your institute. Lydia, could I start with you?
Okay.
What are your thoughts about that?
Sure. I'll talk at two levels, one at the consultants level and one at the institute level. The consultants, 2020 has been a year of sorrow for them. The reason is because a lot of clients, when COVID came, a lot of clients canceled the consulting projects, which is really expected, honestly. So a lot of them, honestly, have been going through a very tough time as consultants. Okay. Then at the institute level, the institute, as you know, we got two brands. We can't straight away. We have this RMC and CMC, and we use RMC as a springboard for CMC. So the RMC, we had a record certification. When I say record certification, in other words, we were conducting courses every month and we were certifying people every month. So it was actually our best year ever. Can't believe it for 2020. Why this is so is because there's a lot of shady funding from the Singapore government. So a lot of the consultants are very interested to be certified so that they can help SME to mainly focus on digitalization, because Singapore focus is very on digitalization and transformation. So for this reason, they want to be certified to be able to help the SME because they were heavily funded by the Singapore government. Now, having said that, we are trying very hard to convince the government to recognize CMC, all right? So that anybody who becomes a CMC can get funding so that we can attract more people become CMC. Although now where we attract CMC is we attract from RMC to CMC because that is our platform. All right.
Yeah.
So the government is still considering. They have not come back to us and said yes, partly because they want to concentrate on the RMC first. Because less consultants would qualify for CMC, more consultants will qualify for RMC. Why this is so? we have a lot of young consultants suddenly coming into the market. And they don't have that many consulting hours.
So there's a much lower experience requirement for the RMC.
1,000 consulting hours for RMC, 3,600 hours for CMC, consulting hours. So it's much more difficult to hit 3,600. 1,000 is easier for them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the report for 2020.
Wow, excellent. Just may I ask a quick question about the RMC?
Yeah.
Is the training for the RMC similar to the training for the CMC?
Quite similar, but not exactly, quite similar. And all the training is done by our council members because they are all very seasoned CMC. So the training of consultants is done by experienced consultants.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
So we mobilize the whole council members to train them.
Okay, and they do that as volunteers?
No, to be very honest with you, they were paid because we just wanted to prepare
no, that's fine. I was just curious. I think it's fair.
They were paid.
Yeah. Okay.
They were paid partly also because we could afford it with the numbers coming up for registration. So we pay them to be fair to them.
Yeah. And I think for that kind of activity, which is ongoing and repetitive, to have an honorarium or payment for that kind of activity makes sense.
Yeah. Actually, we pay them market rate, no? So they're enthusiastic about it. Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
Excellent.
That's all for me.
Thank you. Christine, what are some of the lessons from the Australia perspective?
Look, I'll sort of take the same approach as Lydia, and from an individual consultant perspective, very similar. I mean, a lot of our consultants were hit quite hard with the pandemic, that's for sure. But it has been surprising how agile quite a lot of them have been. Certainly the ones who do quite a lot of government business they've been fine. You know, they've done really well. But the ones who tend to work obviously in the private sector, particularly those that work with hospitality, tourism, those sorts of businesses, they've really been hit very hard. So it's been a little bit of a mixed bag. And even the large consultancy firms here, I don't know what's happened in particular overseas, but there were a lot of layoffs. So a lot of people lost, you know, that they really trimmed their staffing numbers right down. So it wasn't just focusing on the small to medium consultancy businesses. It really was across the board. Certainly, I mean, Australia is probably in quite an envious position in terms of where we're at now with the pandemic, because we've, you know, any new cases are coming in from overseas and they're in quarantine. So we're pretty much restriction free. You know, about the most we have to do now is wear a face mask until tomorrow, and then we're good to go. So and the vaccinations are slowly starting to roll out. So. So business and the economy is slowly picking up, which is really good. In terms of the Institute, it was, I mean, we had to do a 180-degree turn last year because the Institute has been very focused on face-to-face activities. So there was a webinar program that was in place that was probably a webinar about every 4 to 6 months, 4 to 6 weeks, I should say, and that was that was very much, you know, who are we going to get to present something really interesting this month? If there was certainly thought behind it, but it wasn't necessarily a strategic program, if you know what I mean. And of course CMC was always rolling along, but last year we really had to show how we could engage and be meaningful to our members, because you know, the size of Australia, you really have, we're across quite a number of time zones and things, so we really had to sort of turn on a dime. So it forced us to really look at the technology and start to really use the technology. I mean, we're a virtual organisation anyway. We don't have a physical office. So in terms of how the institute operates as an organisation, we've operated like that for a long time, but it really meant we now had to use that technology to reach out to members. So a big part of what I was doing last year was really putting together a national professional development program, and in a framework. So not just necessarily sort of picking bits and pieces, but looking at what's the framework that we need here for professional development to be able to be meaningful and useful to management consultants. So obviously the CMC competency framework was what has underpinned that, getting the training in the ISO 20700 has really given us some great resources to be able to use that as well. So there's been that. We've had another program that we've been running at a chapter level in the States as face-to-face workshops, was something called our Startup Series. And that's now been converted to a 5-module online program, and it's very much aimed at people who are thinking about becoming a management consultant or have just become a management consultant. And so it's really about taking them through the journey. You know, what's it like to be a management consultant? What are the pros and cons? You know, do you start up your own business? Do you join a large consulting firm? Looking at business structures, looking at all of the things you need to have in place, insurance, etc. How to put your documentation together, gaining clients, etc. So that's we're running that and there's a session going on this evening actually. So which is why Steve's running that. Steve Ibbetson's running that. So which is why he wasn't able to attend the meeting today. And that's it's been very popular as a face-to-face workshop. So we're really keen now that it's been converted to an online program, and we really want to make it a bit of a flagship, because it's there are a lot of what we do find is what I find with a lot of the new member inquiries is you know, where can I get some help, some mentoring, some help, you know, to really get myself started. Not so much get myself started, but you know if I'm on the right track or etc. So I guess, yes, so really for us it was really about turning on a dime and really sort of having a completely different approach to the way that we were engaging with members.
I've seen your promotions on that one, and that was really intriguing too. Do you see that as a means of outreach as well into new entrants into the profession?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We've got a recently engaged an external organisation who's doing a lot of our marketing and website support, and they've been great in terms of getting a marketing and promotion program together, and particularly through LinkedIn. So that's where we're doing a lot of our promotion at the moment, as well as you know, marketing to the database that we've got. As well. So, but definitely it's about an outreach. And when it's been run as a face-to-face workshop, it was quite targeted at the students in business schools. And we want to do that again, but we should be able to do that fairly soon now, but that the restrictions are really easing here. So that'll be the next step, is to again do it on a face-to-face basis, because I think really in the end, you know, being able to physically talk and meet people and swap ideas and things, you can't really, there's really no substitute for that. But at least this way, and the cohort, the group that we've got attending the program at the moment is from all over Australia. So which is it's great. You know, they're getting to talk to people who they would never be able to connect with, and they're getting the wisdom of someone like Steve, who's for Lydia and Constantinos, he's on our board of directors, so very, very experienced CMC and a fellow of the Institute. So, yeah.
I think that's great, and the visibility it builds for the profession and the awareness it creates that there is such a thing as an institute and certification process and so on is a great byproduct.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, what we're noticing is when people inquire about that they really do aspire to a CMC. You know, I mean, we can take it a bit for granted if you're one and you've been a CMC for quite a long time, which I have. But it's lovely to see these new consultants coming in and thinking, oh wow, you know, that's what I aspire to. I really would like to get to that point. So yes, it's a good pipeline.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Konstantinos, over to you. What are your observations?
No, thank you. Well, I'll share with you some positive effects and developments that I've seen in 2020 with our, you know, American fellow members. First of all, increased camaraderie between members. Because of this, you know, disruption going into virtually most of the time, if not all the time. A new initiative was brought up back in 2020, the town hall series meetings, giving an opportunity, like imagine like a town hall, and having not a mayor, you know, inviting all the members of the village or the town, but all consultants based discussing, sharing stories around a certain theme regarding the pandemic and you know, the effects and influences, and then ways to rebound, remain resilient, and transform into, you know, transform some kind of agility as well. So that was one. The second one had to do with the increased engagement. This gave an opportunity to each and every member of our organization to increase their engagement. And for example, up till 2019, we have around 11 to 12 chapters located in various states in the US. It wasn't very easy for a member of one chapter to attend another chapter meeting.
Right.
Now with these virtual events, this gave an opportunity for a member, for example, from Dallas, to attend a virtual event hosted by IMC in San Francisco, for example, or in Los Angeles. So this gave an opportunity for our members to mingle more, network more, and be more engaged. On the institute level, we were in a fragile position, and we managed to somehow stabilize. We're still in some kind of fragility, but fragile mode, but especially financially. But we managed to stabilize the situation by continuing our restructuring efforts, abandoning, you know, some initiatives, even streamlining our committees, because we realized that during pre-pandemic times, we sort of operated like a very large, humongous organization with lots of committees, sometimes overlapping, you know, with overlapping initiatives, responsibilities, accountabilities, etc. So we actually streamlined a lot of committees and committee work as well. We ramped up our marketing efforts and gave a strong focus on social media outreach. And this has started producing some results, especially for new membership coming in. We're about to revamp our website on a new platform, and we strongly believe that this will it's going to be even more user friendly, and this will give an opportunity to for our institute on a website basis to become more inclusive. and attract more members as well. I mentioned about social media. And last but not least, we're in the process now of preparing for our annual elections regarding board positions. A noticeable activity has been the diligency regarding the nomination process. We refocused our nomination process for candidates so that candidates selected for becoming more members would pass so-called stress test, so to speak, focusing more on collaborative issues than individual competencies and advantages. So our whole nomination process has been refocused into attracting and selecting candidates that can collaborate at the highest level possible. So we're looking into managing the situation and gradually revamping and rebounding back.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already started preparing for our annual conference, which is going to take place in October as well, but will not coincide with the annual meeting of the ICMCI.
Wonderful. Will you be going virtual again this year?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. The decision has been made, yes.
Yeah, perfect. And Konstantinos, I've seen some, I guess, marketing probably about a quick start program that you have in the US, which sounds similar to what Christine talked about for their entry into management consulting. Are you familiar with that program? Do you know how that's going?
Yes, that was held last year, I believe around September, October.
Mm-hmm.
This gave a good push, and there was it was received well.
Mm-hmm.
And there was interest, and
because it was targeted to new entrants into consulting as well.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Especially, I would say that this is my personal view. I would say new entrants who are actually have experience.
Mm-hmm.
And are either in the executive world, so to speak, trying to pivot. So that's a new target group arising out of the pandemic because of the layoffs in the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of executives actually had to choose what to do with their next steps. So we noticed a trend that a lot of executives would transpose their activities into formulating consulting practices based on their experience and expertise. So this quick start program more actually also tried to attract this specific target group. Mm-hmm. And I believe we will be continuing this initiative as well. And last but not least, we were also about to launch the learning management system as well. And this to correlate with our professional development services as well. I don't have any details on that for the time being.
Okay, so no, I appreciate that. That's great, and that's great. Excellent. Very good update. I was just ruminating on the learning management system because when you start thinking about training, that's definitely the way to be going. So that's a good initiative. That was, I found that very informative. I really appreciate those updates. From the perspective of ICMCI, Christine, you will have heard an early version of these because when I presented to your conference in the fall, that was one of the questions were what were the takeaways from 2020 from the global perspective. But we've been continuing to work on that. And Rima, I'd be very happy for you to jump in at the end as well, because you've got different sets of observations than I would in terms of this. Although we work together a lot, we also work individually on our projects. I guess the most fundamental thing from our perspective is the pace of change and how that has picked up, and the size of disruption and how easily we can be disrupted. So I know it was a once in a century event, and a global pandemic is hopefully will only come once a century, but the surprise with which all of us were hit and how hard so many industries were hit at the same time was a real eye opener, I think, for all of us. But it only reinforces the kinds of disruption that were coming previous to that. So there's been a lot of things that have been happening that have changed the way we operate. And I think on the one side, the size of the disruption and the impact of the disruption has been amazing from the perspective of our client organizations, but it's also, we're feeling it as a management consulting profession. So there's no question that we all, clients, management consulting professionals, need to prepare ourselves for increasing disruption going forward. So whatever it might come from the source, whether it's technological or whether it's shifting economies or whether it's shifting human populations or whether it's climate change, all of these things will have impact on different industries at different times. So I think the lessons that we learned during COVID can be applied going forward to the betterment of us and our societies. I think it's a broader thing than that. And in parallel to that, I think the big learning from us as a management consulting profession is the speed with which people can adapt and pivot. I mean, the life experiences that people have demonstrated have been amazing, both in the consulting side, but also in organizations, where you would think that organizations would fail. Creative executives have turned the target market and their business model on a dime to be able to continue at least earning enough revenue to weather the storm so that they can pick up again as things come back to normal. So whether it's the way in which we deliver our services as a profession, moving to digitize and virtualize our services, I think has happened very, very quickly. But also in the corporate world, the move to virtual offices and working offsite and hybrid teams and figuring out how to do things differently has moved very, very quickly. So so I think the lesson for us as a consulting profession is to really leverage those things that we've learned in terms about being able to pivot and the ability of organizations to change much more quickly than I think organizations 18 months ago would have said that they can change. The second one is kind of related, and it really is around the whole digitalization, virtualization. Digitization projects in companies have the same kind of track record as any major change program. So about 70% of them don't achieve the results that people expected. So in the past 18 months, we've seen huge success in moving forward, but companies will need help in understanding how to manage and support working in different ways for the long term. So it's easy to do something for 6 months or to 8 months, but if you want to really change the culture of the organization in the way in which it works, client organizations need to understand the systems that are at work and the sort of the root cause things, the root cause issues that get in the way of fundamental change that's sustainable over the long period of time. And management consultants have a huge role to play in helping owners of organizations, CEOs of organizations, executives understand that it's more than just reading a book and saying we're going to do it this way now. It's understanding all those underlying systems in organizations that need to be aligned properly. So there's work for us to do there in our own practices and firms in terms of how do we automate a lot of the products and services that we have in place now to make them more affordable and more easy to deliver, and how do we ensure that we can deliver those virtually. So that's, to me, that's one of the hugest opportunities coming out of this, is that we now do realize that we can operate globally, anywhere in the world with a particular set of expertise now can deliver that anywhere else in the world. So it opens up our profession. The third thing is just around the profession itself and the comments that the three of you made in terms of being able to collaborate more because of virtual interactions. That's absolutely the case in my experience in my home institute here in Canada. Going to virtual meetings and virtual training means it's more accessible than it ever was before. And from the global perspective, we've been able to interact as management consultants through forums such as this, which we wouldn't have conceived in 2019. And there's been more interaction at the consultant to the consultant level across borders than we've ever seen before. And I think that's also a very, very positive thing, because this ability to share experiences, as we've just done in the last 20 minutes, is very powerful. And we'll continue to leverage that from the global perspective as we can. And the fourth thing, and I think this is going to be really interesting from the perspective of institutes and management consultants, particularly the smaller firms, is that I foresee a broadening of our client base. The very fact that we automate and digitize means that our services become more affordable. And we should be able to, as a profession, make our services more available to the small, medium-sized enterprises in our countries. That's the economic engine of most countries. And management consulting services, because of their nature, the experience, the cost of travel, the cost of everything, have really been given to sort of the large, medium-sized and the larger corporations who can build it into the budget. An owner of a company doesn't tend to build management consulting into their budget. It's, do I buy this machine or do I hire a management consultant kind of a decision? So by becoming more affordable, I think we can really have a major impact in our economies by helping those smaller companies that have not been able to access themselves to this kind of knowledge that we can bring and share across industries. And the last point I had around that is just the collaborate, the huge importance of collaboration. So I think we are struggling with our membership in institutes, which is ironic, because this is when we need institutes the most, because the sharing of learning from consultant to consultant so that we can work across industries and across borders to learn from each other and ensure that we have access to best practices and can adapt those into our own environments and our own cultures and languages and so on. So collaborating at the institute level, collaborating at the global level, I think, are more important than ever. So this is one of the reasons behind the 2020 Onwards Task Force, and I'm very much looking forward to the results of that, hopefully in time for our annual meeting, so we can have some wholesome discussions on that. So those were my thoughts from that one. Any questions or closing comments? I see, my goodness, this hour has just flown by. We're coming to the end. Yes, please, Konstantinos. Yes.
I like the idea, especially the third and fourth items that you mentioned, increasing interaction and collaboration based on that. And I also like the opening up with the UN, with other organizations, and creating even stronger alliances and affiliations. So this is the idea on the table. It just sprang out. Internally, we could, I've noticed that delegates, up till now, when we had physical meetings, would only meet during the meetings, annual meetings or hubs. And sometimes, there are so many delegates, more than 60 delegates around the globe. And I believe hardly any delegate knows all the delegates and has met all the delegates. So one thing would be, on a category basis, for example, have a monthly or bi-monthly meetings. That's an idea for sharing ideas, sharing stories, sharing successes, sharing blunders, etc. Between some other formulation of groups. For example, delegates meeting delegates, executive directors of institutes meeting executive directors, sharing their experiences, and also chairs meeting chairs. And ICMCI could very easily have have something like a platform and facilitate such interactions and additional collaboration. That's number one. Number two, the external organizations. This is the prime opportunity, I believe, for us to reach out to the world and even attract more international organizations to affiliate with us. We can probably do it if we host meetings and invite representatives of such organizations as guests. Pick up a theme which is critical and focused, and invite from even from industries, even from large multinational companies. This is a great opportunity. We have most of the pieces of the puzzle. We just need to kind of link them together and formalize, let's say, an additional attraction approach for becoming more inclusive.
Kind of like special topic think tanks.
That's right. Yes. This would give a better outreach and even increase our advocacy across the globe.
Great. Two great interventions. I appreciate those. Thank you, Konstantinos. We're down to our last minute. Any other closing thoughts or questions? Okay. Rima, I promised to give you the last word in terms of my report.
Nothing much to add, except that, yes, it is for the SMEs, but this gives more opportunity for consultants who work either as freelancers or on their own, because like Christine said at the beginning, it's the larger companies that are facing issues now, because actually it kind of reversed. It's the larger companies that aren't the focus now of those seeking the management consulting services, and now it is actually the smaller companies and the individual consultants. So there's a shift in the market there. Plus the fact that management consultants providing service to SMEs and entrepreneurs, they would need to also add coaching, because many of those entrepreneurs wouldn't know how to start, where to start, and what should be the focus. So actually, our segment of CMCs and management consultants who are within our network are the ones who actually have the best placing or positioning during this pandemic. That's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great point on the coaching. You know, if you think about any practice, if I think about my practice, coaching the CEO or the owner has to be a part of the work that you do, and yet we often don't recognize it as that. So we should be formalizing that a bit more. I think you're absolutely right. Okay, that brings us to the hour. I don't want to keep you away from the rest of your days and evenings. Thank you very much. I really appreciated this this chance to have a talk. And this is what I hoped for when we talked about this new forum where we could share ideas openly. So thank you so much for doing that.